And there we go. And we're live. And I'm live here in the studio with my good old friend, Fredrik. How good to see you, Fredrik.
How good to see you, Donny. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. And we're actually live here on, let me just put on some banners here for everyone. Yes, of course, my name is Donny. And then I will also do this. Everything you're trying to do everything myself. Yeah, we're actually live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Clubhouse as well. I've also opened a room here on Clubhouse, so we'll see if anybody listening in will actually. Feel free to join us here on LinkedIn. Post all of your comments and, of course, your questions in the comments, and we'll pick them up as we go along. But anyway. My name is Donny. Every Wednesday, 2:30 p.m. Swedish, I go live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and also now Clubhouse with a interesting topic, cool guest, or fantastic idea. And today, of course, we have all three in one. So again, it's a Kinder Egg of innovation today with my good old friend, Fredrik Ruben, who is the CEO of Tobii Dynavox. I'm thrilled to have you here in my digital studio, Fredrik.
My pleasure, Donny. Good to see you. And next time we meet face to face, right?
Yes, indeed. Next time I was going to say, if whichever God you believe in allows, and that whole thing, But yeah, great. I mean, so very short. We'll be talking about Tobii Dynavox. Yes, Gerd Wallin. We got a question right away. Cool. I love it that the live viewers actually are in before they even know what we're talking about. So that's good. Thank you, Gerd, for asking. The topic today is actually Tobii Dynavox, the company where Fredrik works, but it's also more about how tech can actually enhance humanity, how we can become more human using tech, because it usually is the other. We feel the other way around when it comes to tech. So I'd say that's the topic today. But let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Yes, Fredrik, who are you? Tell us a bit about it. Who are you, and what's your story?
So my story is I'm Fredrik. I'm Swedish. I'm broadcasting from my home outside of Stockholm, and since about 7 years, I'm the CEO of the Swedish headquartered but quite international company Tobii Dynavox, which is 1/3, but the majority part of the Swedish public listed company Tobii. And what we do is we are the world leader in assistive technology for communication. So that means devices, software, and tools that bridges the inability that some of our fellow friends on this face of the earth cannot use, which means being able to communicate. So we're probably the most famous for making devices and computers that you can control with your eyes. So for someone who has a disability, which is a motor disability, you're unable to control your limbs, you will more or less be able to do exactly what you and I can do, but you're using just the movement of your eyes. But a lot of our users have basic movement of their body, so they can use alternative access methods, being joysticks or buttons and switches, etc. And then we have a segment of our users who actually have no physical disability. Let's say you're diagnosed with autism, etc. Then you use normal touch interfaces. We are about 450 people in my team. Very global. Our by far biggest market is in the US. That's also where I have the majority of my colleagues, who I'm missing dearly. I haven't met them in a year.
Yeah, well, I think that's the. But how many countries are you active in?
60. You can get our devices in 60 countries, but we only have offices in 7.
Okay. I mean, I think it feels that the whole office thing is something that I don't know.
I agree.
We can talk about offices as well. There's so much I would like to talk to you about, but tell you what.
450 offices roughly. one office per employee.
Yeah, but let's do this. Let's just show a short film. I mean, I know that I've picked up a number of films about you and your users, but there's a couple of them that I just wanted to. Here's one, just to show people a bit what you are all about. So if everybody just sit tight, here comes a wonderful film.
My name is Lucy. Because of cerebral palsy, I need a lot of support to live my life as a woman. And everything takes me longer. My family is my pillar of strength. Since I was born, they've always seen me as a normal person. With my family, I feel able. I feel strong. I study computer science because I like to think about technical problems and to find different solutions. When I used to type, it would take a lot of time, and my wrists and fingers would hurt. But now, I can communicate much faster and more easily, just by using my eyes. I can take my eye gaze device everywhere, to take notes or to express myself in front of an audience with confidence. It's definitely not easy being a student, but I love it. I also love to dance. It is another form of communication, one where I can express myself without words. The barrier of language fades away. Living with a disability is a heavy weight to carry. But because of technology and a family who love me as I am, this weight becomes as light as a feather. And I can live with goals and passions and dreams. To move, to study, and to dance. I feel like myself. I feel free.
Wow. I mean, I remember a quote from you, actually, from, I think it was when you started working at Tobii Dynavox, when, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember that you said something in the lines of, it's amazing to go it's amazing to be able to go to work every day and what brings tears to your eyes, or something like that. You know, you actually get to cry of joy every day.
That is, yeah. That's what I probably said something along the lines. I work for a super high tech company, and it's also it's a fairly big business, which people can find compelling in many ways. But when you combine that with the fact that I literally cry twice a week, and I get handwritten love letters from grandmothers, users, from all around the world. I'm being harassed on social media by some of our users who have very different political views, and the fact that I'm being harassed by someone who I have enabled the ability to even say something fills me with so much pride, and it's pretty cool.
I mean, I will actually, I'll a secret for the audience here. I actually had to watch these films twice myself before the broadcast, so I had, I got the crying thing out of the way, because I'm the same thing every time. It's hits me every time.
It's profound, and I think that's important. Being unable to express yourself is basically renders you unable to be who you are.
Yeah.
We've asked a question, and it's a rhetorical question, to some of our users who are confined to a wheelchair. Okay, I have to take one thing away. I'll take your wheelchair away, or I'll take your communication device away. Which one do you surrender? And they basically say, you can take my wheelchair. It doesn't matter for me to get around. It's so much less important for being who I am than ripping me of my ability to communicate. And it's also interesting because you saw in Lucy here, she lives in France. Lucy was the keynote speaker at Women in Tech in Stockholm last year. She's a super cool lady. But Lucy's family, of course, and we hear that so often from some of our users, mothers or fathers. It's of course great for my kid, but it's such a massive thing for me, because being a special needs parent is actually quite depressing sometimes, because you feel so unable to do whatever you could do for your kid because you can't communicate. And having the ability to bridge that gap actually makes a huge impact also for the families, the teachers, everybody around the users. So it's a massive impact.
Yeah, and it must make a big. I mean, I think we both have the we'll call it the great fortune of being able to work in organizations that have the potential to actually help people and do good stuff. And I mean, that's why I go to work every day as well. And it just makes for a different kind of feeling, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think we're talking sometimes, when it comes to employer branding and those kinds of things. Companies talk about we need to find the why and we need to have the purpose of what we do. I mean, we're cheating here. We're playing a different league. it is very obvious. We're commercial, we're high tech, etc. But it's extremely mission driven organization. You can sense that whenever you enter one of our offices, because a lot of us we're here also for a reason. We have actually a relationship to someone with a special need. Maybe we're a special need parent, or a child, or we have users of our products that actually work, and we work for our team, and that of course makes a little bit of a difference.
I'll just mention as well to anybody that just joined in now, my name is Donny. I work as a business coach at the biggest tech university in Stockholm. The university, by the way, that happens, is one of the founding universities of Tobii. The founders from Tobii, part of the founding team came from KTH, the university. Yes. We're of course incredibly proud of Tobii and what they've managed to achieve. And every Wednesday here I go live, and I'm here live today with Fredrik Ruben, who is the CEO of Tobii Dynavox. And please, everybody, I'm seeing a lot of comments, wonderful comments from people here. Theo Harian, great to see you. Made me cry, touched. Ali, super inspiring. Daniel, I love you too. Thank you, Daniel. And of course, Nina, great to see you online as well. And lots of people are saying, but people as well, please ask some questions here. Now we are live. That is part of the whole live broadcast here, is to get the interaction going, and really happy to see so many people online with us here today. And also I'm looking at the just checking the Clubhouse room. I also have 4 or 5 people there as well. So we have a lot of people listening in. Yes, back to you then. Back to you, Fredrik. Yes, back to you. It's too many, so many questions. I can't even ask one. But how do you in this day and age of pandemic and how do you find working virtually in when I can imagine that the kind of work you do it's a lot about people, relationships, and getting close to people. And how are you handling that when you can't be in that situation yourself?
Right. I think we have different perspectives. One is an internal perspective, where we had the benefit of already before the pandemic. We're an international company. A fair amount of my colleagues actually work remote. I have probably 120 people in the US alone that basically they have been and always have been working remote. So we already had the infrastructures and ways of working to basically overnight shift to an entirely non-physical way of working, with the exception of, we make hardware. So we have people who do repairs and ship these devices, and those kinds of things. They obviously have to work, but we've been quite diligent on safeguarding them so that our offices is a safe place for people who really have to go there. Then on the other hand, you have the interaction with our users. As you can imagine, has traditionally always been very much face-to-face. And that has been, more or less impossible over the past 12 months. We are also ruled to a degree by the local funding rules, etc. So the public insurance companies or the private insurance companies, they basically demand that it has to be a paper copy of a assessment protocol, etc. What has happened is that there's been a lot of innovation in that. So a lot of those assessment has been transitioned over to Zoom, but we also did assessments and having my colleagues meeting users in parking lots and public places and stuff like that. At the same time, the governments also in quite strict countries such as Germany, but also in the US, have actually laxed the rules. So they accept tele-assessment or teletherapy as a way, and we will never go back. So it works. And then we have the funniest example of that is Australia is a fairly big market for us. And when I talk to my colleagues in Australia, why are you keeping business up? I said, Fredrik, do you ever think we did face-to-face meetings before? It's not that we traveled out to our users and our customers.
Australia, right? It's like
exactly. So doing stuff remote is there's no different to that. So but we've coped. But it's been challenging. I feel in particular. I'm Swedish. I have 3 kids. Our schools have been open throughout the pandemic so far. I'm blessed, and I feel I feel a lot for some of my colleagues who have to, balance homeschooling and remote working and that kind of pressure.
Of course. But how about, you mentioned telehealth, and
Yes.
that feels like, I mean, again, I'm asking questions here without having any in-depth knowledge of, what you work with and exactly, details. But I would imagine that the rise of telehealth also opens another dimension for what you do and the possibilities of what you can do.
Yeah. If you think about the products that we do, which if you read some of the old lingo, they're called speech generating devices, SGDs, and that's of course something which was innovated when it was really about a little box that synthesized speech for people who couldn't talk. But if you think about a device like ours, which looks like this today, it's an eye tracking enabled communication device. The most used features is of course Facebook, Netflix, everything, being able to your physical disability, your disability. I mean, there's no limitation, and I think everybody has felt a little bit disabled to some degree now when we've been confined to our homes, and I think it's a level playing field. Some of our users are extremely active on social media, and has been for many years. And one of the reasons why they are so actually because on social media there's no different from Lucy and the kid with cerebral palsy and the other, dude who sits there, and they say the same things. Nobody can see them, etc. It's a level playing field.
Yeah.
And that is going to be the norm. I mean, it's Ready Player One, but in a different universe.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, I've done a lot of work with online communities, avatar-based communities, and I've run a couple of big ones myself, previously, and exactly what you're saying there, where you level the playing field because everybody is, you have this avatar, and nobody knows where you are or in what physical possibilities or not that you do have or not. I mean, it does level out, definitely.
It is actually quite existential. A fairly big user group of ours have the horrible disease ALS. There's even an article in today's Expressen I noticed. I haven't read it, frankly, but I saw that. And ALS is a condition that, it could happen to anyone, you and me, and it's not slowly. It actually deprives you of every ability that your body has apart from your brain. However, it doesn't affect you cognitively. You're as smart, you're as funny, you're the same dude behind that facade, even though your body isn't functioning. What happens with ALS is that your lungs get affected typically at some stage of the process. And at some point you need to get intubated. You need to get a tracheostomy, basically, which is a hose that brings you oxygen straight into your lungs. But you do that. Once you do that, you will be rendered unable to talk. And there's actually a fair amount of people or users who say, I don't want to go through that. I'm done. I mean, turn off the machine. I'm done. Because if I can't communicate, then the reason for me to live is gone. What happens now is that, well, we through this technology, you can continue to communicate. You can continue who you are. And we have people who are literally just a brain that is being fed with oxygen and nutrition, and they are writing plays, they're writing books, they're being politically active. The physical body is just actually a hurdle. It doesn't add anything, and it is quite existential when you think about that the brain is intact, but this stuff is quite irrelevant for us.
Yeah, but it is, I mean, I read an article, I won't go into that, but I read an article about somebody that it was a columnist, and he wrote sort of, if I don't have my legs, why should I live? That kind of my physical body is that. And I was thinking to myself, but how can we judge who we are by that? I mean, Stephen Hawkins is an incredible example. One of the biggest brains we've had on the planet. If we were going to judge him as a physical manner, he wouldn't be even counted as. So yeah, indeed,
and that's what we're all about. And that's kind of what we're all about. We have we say that we empower people with disabilities to do what they once did. That's the people with ALS, the one who's been in the motorcycle accident or never thought possible. That's the kid who gets born with a diagnosis and then the outer world says he or she will never be able to, and then you put the label on unable.
Yeah.
And we so fundamentally believe that thanks to this technology, and remember, this technology hasn't existed for that long.
Yeah.
A wheelchair or a crutch or that has existed for thousands of years. But
indeed,
we want to do that.
Here's some questions here as well. Charlotta's asking us, what is the most important to develop techniques for communication? Yes.
Yeah, and it's the technology that we have is actually. Hold on, I need to turn my phone off. We basically have there's a couple of layers into this. One is the software, the interaction software, and that software is dependent on who you are. So you have two distinct user groups: the so-called congenital users. That's a kid who was born with something, and we need to help him or her to develop functional literacy, to go to school, to become someone. And then you have the other story, like the ALS case, where we just want to compensate for whatever you were able to do before. And then, of course, as you can imagine, the software interaction for those types of products, they look very, very different. You could have like a symbol communication board for someone who's not literate, but for you and me, we just want to have a cursor so that we can run our computer, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the access methods. So access method is about using your fingers, joysticks, your knee, to compensate for whatever, and then eye tracking comes in. We're right now experimenting a lot with brainwave interfaces. So you basically put some sort of brainwave sensors to be able to sense interaction. That's still, it works, but it's in its infancy. And then you have Stephen Hawking. He had a cheek muscle sensor.
Wow.
What we want to do is to make sure that we have the rate to go up, to be faster. Because Stephen Hawking, he wrote with 1 letter per minute. That's quite slow.
Per minute?
We have per minute. So, if some of you may have been to one of his sessions, it's a fairly slow conversation, right? Then we have with eye tracking, and maybe sometimes if you have some movement in your body, you could get up to 60, 70 words per minute. And then you have someone like us who, depending on how fast typers we are, etc., we type maybe 200 words a minute. And then when we speak, it's faster. So that's really what I want to nail. I want to get this rate of communication up, because that's part of the normalcy, not having to kind of, hey, how are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait. Yeah.
And that actually leads me into another thing. I know we have a lot of questions coming into the chat here, but I had another comment on that as well. And that is also, I know that, we're talking about people with disabilities, but I know for a fact also that you've been doing a lot of work in trauma. Like in, ambulance picking up somebody in an accident, trauma. They're unable to speak or they're in shock or something, but their eyes are there.
Yeah.
Can you just mention something about that?
Yeah, so we've been working, one example is we're working with a burn wound clinic. So people who have burn wounds, typically, they can't move their bodies. They've been burnt, right? Right. Where and sometimes if you're a burn victim, maybe your lungs have been affected because you have been breathing toxic gases and stuff like that. But we have no clue whether this person is here or not. Are you able to hear me? Do you have any other conditions? And putting a device in front of you, which is very simple, yes, no, or a picture of the body, where do you have pain? Is it in the knee or in the neck? Those things, make a huge difference for the acute care. And it's also a psychological effect. We had one of the users who he broke his neck, in essence. There's actually a documentary on Swedish television about this gentleman. I think his name is Sebastian, and he did his military service as a signalist, so he know Morse, to communicate with Morse. So he went into the emergency care. There is this nurse that comes talking to him, and he's trying to use his eyes to say, I am fine. And after 2 minutes, she says he has something in his eye, and she gets a wet wipe to try to clean his eye. Imagine the frustration in your body when you're trying to say, I am fine. It's just that my body isn't working. and it's interpreted as he has something in his eye. We need to clean it.
Amazing. Again, we're getting some wonderful comments here. Susanna, so important. Communication is indeed the most important thing we have. Thank you for finding new ways for everybody to be able. Could not reschedule last leave, but keep fine. Happy to have you on the call at all. Cisse, indeed amazing. Charlotta, thank you again. I know. I mean, I'm looking at the time here. It's 5 to 3. This is my afternoon coffee break when I invite people to have a cup of coffee with me, and I'm thrilled that you had time for me today, Fredrik. I know I know you have a tight schedule. I'm really glad that you could be part of this today. Anybody out there, keep sending me questions. Reach out to Fredrik and Tobii Dynavox on LinkedIn, and help us spread the word about this incredible
and
technology.
That's important. Sorry for interrupting, but I think that's exactly what we need. And this has nothing to do with commercial success for us. Our biggest challenge is that the awareness that this technology exists is so low, even among the people who work with this. And the devices are there, the technology is there, even the funding systems are there. So the laws and the regulations are typically in favor of the users. But the awareness that this technology even exists is beyond tiny. We think that we have about a 2% penetration of the people who need this technology who actually gets it. So that's my only ask from kind of the outer world.
Just spread the word that there is technology out there that will not only make us more human, but it will also level the playing field for equality. Because when it comes to this, when it comes to communication, and when it comes to actually brain-to-brain dialogue, we are equal. And that is, I think that's a very, very interesting message. I want to end before I say goodbye to you, I just want to end with one more film here about Becky. And this time I will cry. So I'll put the film on now before you see me bursting into tears here. Hang on, everyone. Here's my last film, and then I'll say just thank you and goodbye to Fredrik as well.
Hello, my name is Becky and I'm 15 years old. I use a computer, which I control with my eyes to speak. Drama is my passion. I love to act and dance. I have performed on stage multiple times. I don't let my disability stop me from doing anything I want to do. Always follow your dreams, whatever they may be, and never ever give up.
Fantastic ending words. Always follow your dreams and follow your passion, and enabling people to follow your passion. Thank you so very much, Fredrik, CEO of Tobii Dynavox, for being here on my show today. And so good to see you again, my dear old friend.
Thank you for having me.
We haven't actually met for I don't know how many years. Okay. 20. Anyway, and thank you everyone out there for all of the comments. I'm sorry I couldn't post all of the comments, but keep the comments going. Spread the film, share this on LinkedIn, keep the word going, let everybody know that there is tech out there. Okay, love you all. Love you, Fredrik. Take care now, and have a great day.
Likewise, Donny. Thank you for having me.